Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Aaron is here tonight, but maybe not here. So I'm happy to be leading tonight's show for you, and I'm Kimberly Cecil Jones. This week, we're going to check in on what happened in the most watched Kentucky party races this week, which, as you know, we've been very focused on the Kentucky Six, the District of Six, and the statewide races for the Kentucky Senate. And of course, we must talk about the big Massey versus Trump fight. And then we'll talk with a friend of ours, Beth Howard, longtime Kentucky community organizer. She's worked with Surge, KFTC. She's launched Rednecks for Black Lives and has now released a powerful personal memoir detailing her journey from Appalachia to multiracial, class based organizing for change. We really can't wait to discuss her book, which is called Song for Hard Hit People, a memoir of anti racist solidarity from a coal miner's daughter, with the author Beth Howard. So, we got a good show for you tonight. So we may have a treat, and Aaron, he may come in for us. We're not sure, we hope, but we do have a great show for you tonight. And but before we actually get into everything and check in with my co-host tonight, who are you and where are you and who's on your BITIN list? BITIN list means like who's on your SH list, okay? And I will start first. How I'm feeling about the elections from yesterday. I still feel like on my list, I must say, the voters. And the reason why I say the voters is because the turnout and traditionally when it comes to primaries, it's not always going to be like when it's a general election, when there's a presidential election. However, I just feel like the world is spinning out of control. Our state is spinning out of control. And this is where we speak up. We get the best candidates for whatever party that you are affiliated with to run for the gusto in November. And I just don't feel like the turnout was particularly anything to speak of. So on my biting list today is the voters. But I do appreciate the ones that did show up and showed out. What about you, Nate?
Yeah, well, hi, folks. This is Nate Orshan coming live from Kit and Mai's house in South Frankfurt, just a stone's throw from the Capitol building and the governor's mansion. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here tonight, especially to have Beth Howard with us. That's going to be great. We'll be talking about her book and whatnot. But biting list. Who's on my biting list? Well, it's probably Andy Barr, and he's been he's been on my biting list for a while.
Bootlicker bar.
Bootlicker Barr, yeah, this is the guy who said he had an ad, I guess, once like, do you know what DEI stands for? Dumb, evil indoctrination, right? It gives you an idea of sort of how far up Trump's elementary system he has stuck himself. Um, yeah, so unfortunately for everybody, he is the Republican candidate for Senate. And so we're going to be getting a lot of nonsense. No, worse than nonsense. We're going to be getting a lot of racism from him in the next, 6 months or so until the election. So don't fall for it. But do, if you have rabies and you see him out, do consider sharing some of that wealth with Mr. Barr. Congressman Barr still. He's still a congressman, but, trying to take over for Mitch McConnell's seat. So, yeah, that's it. That's my biting list. What else we got, Kimberly?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. The primaries is over. Thank God. Like I could barely get up today. I've just been exhausted all day. Haven't you, Nate? Just going through this election primary cycle.
It's
So, with the primary in the rearview mirror now, we are now all in on engaging voters with the goal of turning out unlikely midterm voters in November. Our postcarding campaign will continue starting on Saturday, November the 6th, in Madison County, and Monday, November the 8th in Lexington, at the W6 Brewery Barrel Room from 6 to 8. Please make plans to join us at one or both events. Hey, Nate, is it really supposed to be November?
Monday, November 8th in Lexington. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm thinking that's July. I'm sorry, June. Yep, that would be June 8th.
Okay.
We need to talk to our copy editor.
Oh boy, who wrote this? I'm gonna be like,
Who wrote this?
Who wrote this?
I'm gonna
What is a
talk to the
Twitter
person in
score?
charge.
Okay, so we're talking about June the 6th. That sounds like it might be right in Madison
Yep,
County at the Richmond
yep,
Library, and Monday,
yep,
June the 8th in Lexington at the W6 Brewery
yep,
Barrel Room. So let's go
yes.
head on and get into the news of the week.
News of the week. We need a
News
song for
of
that.
the week. News of the week.
The
They didn't
week.
come in to hear
So
me
we
sing anyway.
we're sort of so this show sort of is based around Lexington, although we stretch a little further with you, Kimberly, out in Louisville, um, but that means that we're very, very intensely interested in what happened in KY6, and what happened was uh, we've got a good candidate in Zach Dembo, who is the Democratic candidate now for Congress to take Andy Barr's seat. And up against him is going to be a very familiar face for people who have known Kentucky politics for a while. That would be Ralph Alvarado. You
Oh
probably,
no.
yes, that guy, Dr. Ralph Alvarado to us.
He's a
He wasn't
Yahoo.
He's a yeah, yep, he totally is. He was, of course, Matt Bevin's lieutenant governor, and he did make some history. So back in 2014, apparently he was the first Hispanic member of the Kentucky General Assembly. I don't know if that Hispanic or Latino. I think technically Hispanic means you're from Spain or Spanish origins, but either way, some good history being made. Back then. Now, oh well. So the guy he's going up against, Zach Dembo, is a native of Lexington. He was in the Navy, and he's been a teacher as well. And he even has DOJ experience. That's right, Department of Justice. He was in the Civil Rights Division as a federal prosecutor. And later on, more recently, he's been a policy advisor and a legislative director for Governor Andy Beshear. So this guy has extremely good experience, and I had the luck of seeing him speak at one of our postcarding events at West 6th within the past month or so. And guy gives a good speech, and he's impassioned, and he is definitely on the right side of policies, the things that progressives like us really care about. So I'm delighted about that. And I think, Ralph Alvar. So on the one hand, Alvarado's got some name recognition, right? And that counts. It's worth something to have that too. But on the other hand, recognition for what? What's the guy actually done? And there's some interesting stories too in his background about I think some potential conflicts of interest. It's sort of escaping me, but it's the kind of stuff that Mr. Dembo's campaign is probably going to be bringing up and making sure that voters in the 6th district know about. So it's a good competition. Not that you want it to be that even. We'd like people with progressive policy interests to have a bit of an edge. But I think that the more the voters get to know Zach Dembo, not just the Democrats that voted for him, but all the people in the new District 6, I think they're going to like him. Do you have anything you want to say about that race or those folks, Kimberly?
I'm glad that we have a great candidate. going into the general election. But if it was a slice of bread and it was a Democrat, I was going to vote for it anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like,
I
are you
mean, I'm just
Democrat?
being honest with you, but we're going to run through these stories because they are so salacious. There was some
Salacious.
upsets that happened, like in sports, they say, "Oh, it's an upset." There was some upsets that happened last night. And
Uh-huh.
I also want to just throw out there that my son, he ran for an office, his first time, first elected official on in my family and in the city of Shively, right here in Jefferson County. He did make it to be a council person for the city of Shively here in Jefferson County. So we're really excited about that. And he's only
Oh,
35 years old. So we'll see where this goes. But
yeah.
let's talk about the Senate races real quick. Okay, so in the GOP, you've got who? Bootlicking Barr,
Bootlicking Barr.
Bootlicking Barr, and then you've got the most charismatic politician would be Mr. Charles Booker.
Whoop whoop. They could not. Can I just say they? Oh, you're on mute for a second. Those two guys could not be more different from one another. I mean, in every
Uh,
single way. You know.
that particular seat always concerns me with this state. Um, they are like you're saying, they're so different. They're like night and day. They're like oil and water. It's just they are so different.
Yeah.
And you've got Bootlicking Barr, whom he's had commercials that were very racist, using racial tropes, and also being pushed by Trump, and the people still wanted him. That's what makes me concerned. Okay. That's what makes me extremely concerned about this seat. But then you've got Charles Booker, who has a way about people and has wonderful and great ideas. However, some do call him a democratic socialist. I heard that phrase, but I really don't think you have democratic socialist. Really, you just got Democrats, and you've got different parts of it, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of the concerns that I have is just with that seat, and I have it each and every time. And Amy McGrath, she was a favorite for the entire state, so we'll call that an upset that Charles did take that for the entire state. So we'll see what happens with that. Of course, we want Charles Booker to be our senator, most definitely, not just because of his color or coming from the hood here in Louisville, Kentucky. Take away all of that. We need somebody that's going to vote for us and vote for the right things. So this is a salacious story coming up, Nate, about Massey and
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
how you pronounce
Okay.
his name? Gallerin,
Gallrain, I think. Which
whatever.
so if you're watching this right now and not just listening to it as you're washing dishes, you'll see Trump endorsed Gallrain, wins heated Northern Kentucky Republican primary against incumbent Massey. Yeah, it's one of those really interesting situations where Massey is usually, for us progressives, on the wrong side of just about everything, right? But he turns out that he's really, really, really stubborn. And he cares about a lot of stuff, like, not getting into foreign wars, for example, or, you know what, when you say you're going to release all the Epstein files, you better release them. Stuff like that, which is admirable, and of course put him on the wrong side of Donald Trump. So Trump and his allies sort of spared no expense in terms of supporting Mr. Gallrain, and it worked. It worked. They got enough Trump support out there to win. I will say that when you look at pictures of Gallrain, I keep thinking of, and I don't want to get into like the ad hominem kind of attacks. This guy's so ugly, but but good Lord, I see pictures of him, and he looks like that Emperor Palpatine, from Star Wars, like kind of the evil kind of scrunched up guy. And I think if somebody out there who was good at AI art, Kimberly, would put put one of those black cloaks over him, everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, he should have been in one of those movies." Um,
I, you know, the eyes are the windows to the soul. All you have to do is
yes,
really look in someone's eyes, and you can really see who they are. If you really look into their eyes, you can. You could tell if they're a warm and opening person. You could tell if they look half past crazy, like you're looking right now.
yeah,
Put you
don't
in one
vote
of
for
those
me.
Stephen King movies or whatever. So you could tell who a person is. And when you look at his eyes, that you notice that something's not right. Something doesn't mesh with me.
Yeah, yeah, he's yeah, and of course, never mind the eyes. The fact that he is so in the camp, in the bag for Trump, just is not a good thing. And like they say, that district is extremely Republican, and it's going to be a really hard battle for Melissa Strange, who is the Democrat who won. We'll be talking about her. I I can imagine we're going to try to get her on Kernels of Truth as well,
Most
because
definitely.
yeah, she's like our people, and we want to get to know her. But it's going to be a tough slog. One thing that could happen is as the war in Iran drags on, and inflation increases, and gas increases, and the quality of life keeps going down, 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 down. I think at some point there's going to be people peeling off of the Trump camp, because it's just like, yeah, you're the fascist I want, but you know what? I also am supposed to have a better quality of life right in about now. So I think there's going to be some room for support for a Democratic candidate, or at least less support for a Republican like Mr. Gallring. So. Not that I don't want bad things to happen to us all. I don't want anybody to suffer, and I certainly don't want an economic crisis caused by our president's obvious and patent stupidity. But if things keep going on the way they've been going, I think it's going to be a better and better situation for Democrats like Ms. Strange. Um, so yeah, that's
I
what I
pray
think.
so. I pray so
Yeah,
every day. I'm going to continue to pray and be very faithful in thinking positive about it. But it concerns me about that Senate race with that Trump influence. I knew that Thomas Massey was going to have some hiccups along the way, but I thought
yeah,
his people would still rally around him,
yeah,
his staunch supporters, things like that. I thought that maybe he would do that. That would happen for him. But then, Trump comes into the picture again. And I was looking at CNN and MSN now and Reuters and everything all night was about this Massey deal.
yeah.
But uh it concerns me. Trump had too much influence in our election, at least for two of those. Um Most definitely. But I'm going to move
Yeah.
on here to another salacious story. Get ready for this one, Nate, because
Salacious.
that's my new word for today, salacious.
Salacious, yes.
Delicious. I got the tea, and the tea is boiling hot on this one. And the
Spell it.
copywriter wrote
Spell
on
it.
here, by creep. Oh my goodness. Kentucky Representative Daniel Grossberg among three state lawmakers to lose the primary. I knew that Daniel Grossberg was not going to win. He's been, I have you ever heard of anybody being permanently blocked from a strip club? Like, I've never heard of it.
It's yeah. You've got to be a really scuzzy dude.
And there were people, our people in the political community spectrum, that were privy victims of Representative Daniel Grossberg allegedly It's never gone to court, so we just have
Yeah,
to say allegedly at this point. But
allegedly.
personally, I believe he did it. Personally, that's my
Yeah.
personal opinion. But allegedly, it has not been confirmed. But let me tell you who did win, and I'm going to stumble over his name. And um, but you know what? It's okay. It's done out of ignorance of the pronunciation and not from my heart. I would say Mitra Subduda,
Hmm.
Subadi, Mitra Subadi. That sounds good. That sounds right, right?
That works. That works for me.
Okay. He's a Bhutanese. He's a Bhutanese
Yeah.
refugee and a public school educator. He won
Yes.
the Democratic nomination with nearly double the votes of Daniel Grossberg. So, and then there
That's
was another
awesome.
JCPS teacher that finished second. So that was amazing. So
Yeah.
that wasn't an upset. I think everybody primarily knew that Daniel Grossberg was going to be OUT out. But let's move into the 44th district, which is my district. And if you've been keeping up to date with us on a weekly basis, you know that I've talked about the Louisville's Most Wanted. In my district, 44th district, House district, Representative Beverly Chester Burton is our state rep. She lost the primary by just 5 votes to Kenya Wade. Okay.
Ouch.
And I'm really going to wonder if they're going to actually call that race out like that, because I don't know, but is it possible that maybe Representative Chester Burton, that she will contest that or do a recount if she has any money? Because I know it cost.
Oh yeah.
But for
It's
5 votes, I don't know if I could just sit down and just be like 5 votes, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It's worth doing if it means that much to you, and like you say, if you can afford it. That's the other
Exactly.
point. But
Now, Kenya, whom I know personally,
hmm,
is a former social worker who founded a nonprofit to prevent gun violence.
hey,
Now, Beverly Chester Burton received her second conviction for driving under the influence last year. The 2024 citation stated that she refused to perform any type of sobriety test or anything of that nature. I remember they had the video footage. It was so embarrassing. Oh my God. I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed to see this. Okay. She told officers that she would beat it like she did last time, and that these guys act like they haven't ever been to a birthday party. So the Courier Journal reported, and that's the main newspaper here in Louisville, that Kenya Wade also had a criminal record. And I remember when all of that went down, it was a big to do around here. And what happened with that is that they say that Kenya was, I believe, convicted of these situations, but they said that she was found guilty of official misconduct in the first degree in 2022, which was only just 4 years ago. She was working as a social worker at an Oldham County prison when she was accused of having, well, actually, not just accused, she was found guilty of having an explicit sexual phone conversations
oh,
with a
oh dear.
convicted serial rapist. So now she will be the state representative that is representing my district.
Wow.
And then there was a third guy as well, Justin Slaw, believe his name was. He looks so good on paper. I mean, like he would have been like the dream person to actually uh vote for. He was young, he looked so polished. He's an
Yeah.
attorney. He sits on the board of different nonprofits. He's a veteran, all of these things. However, just last year in February of 2025, he was arrested and convicted basically because he pled guilty to domestic violence, which they talked about. If
Oh,
my
yes.
memory serves me correctly, about a strangulation of his ex-wife, or there was some violence involved, and he pleaded guilty to that. So those were the three. I just had to laugh for a second because it's so nobody would believe me if it was not documented. I'm serious.
Y-
Nobody would
Yeah.
believe that this, like, three criminals, all of them have records that are less than 10 years.
Yeah, well, you tell me that someone's got domestic violence, accusations or convictions, and that's like an automatic, yeah, no, I can't support that. Um,
Having sexual phone conversations with a convicted
yeah, that's
serial.
another,
This guy was a serial rapist. He didn't
yeah,
just rape one person, he was a serial rapist, which
yeah,
means primarily you had to rape more than two people,
yeah.
right?
I hear you.
Then
It's
you
yeah,
have Representative Beverly Chester Burton with two DUIs underneath her belt. Well, I hope Kenya Wade goes to Frankfurt and she does something really, really, really amazing. What do you think about all of this? I know that we've got Miss Beth Howard coming up, but
yes.
what are your thoughts? What did you know?
I mean, I guess it's a matter of going with the least objectionable. I mean, if I was in that district, um, I'm not sure. I just think that the domestic violence would be an automatic disqualifier for me. So then, it would come down to DUI versus the salacious. There's your word again, Kimberly. Salacious phone calls with the serial rapist. I guess in a sense, I'm glad I don't have to make that choice, but you know,
I had to make that choice yesterday,
yeah,
and let me just put it to you like this. I did not vote for the domestic abuser. I
yeah,
did not vote for them.
yeah,
Okay. So it was between the other two women, and we just have to guess which one that I voted for,
yeah.
because I just don't think it's fair to the constituency of the 44th district that this is what we had. Everybody said, Kim, you should have ran. A piece of bread should have ran and probably would have won. All they had to do was say, I'm not a criminal. Okay,
Oh
that's all
dear.
they had to do is just say, I'm not a criminal. I would have to say, I have not been locked up for the last 34 years.
Yeah.
And the last time I got locked up is because I was younger than young and got into an altercation. Let me speak more sophisticatedly. An
Mm.
altercation outside of a club that resulted in blows, but we were friends like 2 days later. So, hey, she got arrested too. So that's it.
Yeah, balanced it out completely. All right.
Right.
Well, it's just about 7:30 here
Is
in real
she in? Is
time.
she in the purple room? She in the purple
Beth
room?
is here, so we're gonna throw up the sign
Yes.
to let people know who we've got. And Kimberly,
Beth
take it away.
Howard is an amazing woman that
Hey,
has worked with so many organizations, and has really fought the fight and is an ally to people of color. And being a coal miner's daughter coming from the Appalachian areas of Kentucky, you would never think that this woman, a blonde woman from the Appalachia, right, would be such an ally for anti-racist programs, and to really speak out and have an organization called Rednecks for Black Lives. I thought that was funny. So I introduce to you Miss Beth Howard. How are you?
hey everybody. I'm good. It's so great to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me and for the kind words.
Yes, your book was amazing. So we're going to be talking a little bit about your book as well, because everybody needs to go by this book, Song for Hard Hit People. This is, Beth, this is such a deeply personal and exposing memoir, detailing, you had a tough childhood. There were
Yep.
adults that didn't provide the care that we hope every child receives, but we know far too often this is the case.
Yep.
Okay. And it details a long arch towards self love, self acceptance, and grace towards your parents and family, all while you are becoming a powerful, more impactful organizer. Thank you, Beth, for sharing this with us. It really hit the spot for me. It's helped me personally. Your book has. Uh, need to tell you that, have to tell you that. And what I really want to know is, what was the calling that made you want to tell your story?
Mhm. Yeah, such an important question. And I talk in the book about how being a writer was like my childhood dream. And it was something, books were something like many of us who are going through something hard. Stories can be a way that we can lose ourselves into something or somewhere that feels safer than where we physically are. And so, whether that be books or a favorite TV show or cartoon or different, all the different ways we take in stories. And for me, that was reading. And so I wanted to grow up and write books, and books that would help people like me. And then, I went to college, went to school for writing, and I was a poet. And like so many of us, at some point, my student loans started coming in, and I was like, poetry is not paying my bills right now, right? And so I had to figure out a way to make money. And in the book, I kind of document my journey into finding community organizing, which thankfully allowed me to do political work and get paid for it. But all that to say, I gave myself to that work for a couple decades, and I always like it was like I always kept waiting to be like, oh, there's going to be so much to write about. I just know these two kinds of parts of my life are going to come together, but I just worked all the time and I wasn't writing, and I wasn't kind of tapping into that creative part of myself. And so when I turned around 40, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to try to write. I'm really going to try to fulfill this dream that I have. And I had a viral essay that you named, in the intro, Rednecks for Black Lives, which we can talk about. But that gave me some confidence. And I think when people heard that, or read that essay, kind of like what I heard you say, Dr. Kimberly, about, here's this blonde white woman from Eastern Kentucky. Like, why, how is this woman committed to racial justice? And I wanted to tell my story to show that I'm committed to this, not in spite of being from Eastern Kentucky or from Appalachia, but because of it.
Very, very powerful. I know I had tears and everything because this book really resonates with me on how I was brought up. And trauma has no color.
Yep. Yep.
Trauma has no religion. It has no anything. It's just what it is. It's trauma. And I just hope that everybody has a chance to read this book, to have that umph again, that motivation again, to look at themselves and say, I am somebody. I do matter in this world. And also in reading the book, I remembered something I used to say all the time. People love you only how they know how to love.
Right.
And I
Yep.
forgave my mom and dad because
Mhm.
they're gone now anyway. There's no
Yeah.
going back, no more conversations, right?
Yep.
However, they loved me the best way they knew how to love.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
They were flawed, they were traumatized by whatever, and on and on. But this book is so amazing. and I know Nate has a great question for you. His question is going to be better than mine. Watch.
Maybe not. Well, I guess I'll just take a minute to let you know that I wasn't expecting to enjoy Song for a Hard Hit People as much as I did,
I'm so
but oh my goodness, you've been living rent free in my head for the past few days as I finished the book, and I think one of the reasons is that it's like you, it's really rooted in Kentucky and Appalachia. And these are subjects that I just want to know about automatically because I'm a new Kentuckian. I've only been here 8 years, so
Yep.
not from here, but love it. Fixing to die here someday.
Yeah.
And mostly the way you weaved your often very intense personal journey with sort of the needs, the imperatives of systemic change and activism. So you've got the personal thing, and then sort of the polemic, for lack of a better word. But to turn to the stories, there's so many great stories in this book, just over and over and over again. And I picked one out about Mrs. Thomas in Daytona Beach when you were down there. And that was one of your first big kind of activism gigs. And she's so respected in the community, and everybody knows her and pays attention to her, does what she does. She keeps people in line. And it comes time for that organization, Faith, to ask the mayor in this public assembly, whether he's going to add money to the transportation budget so that folks who are working second, third shift jobs who normally can't take the bus because it doesn't run that long will suddenly be able to, because if there's the money. So there's this great scene I just want to call out for a second where there's the public assembly, and they've got the mayor there on stage or whatever it is, and Mrs. Thomas is clutching that mic, and he wants to take it so he can blather, kind of like I'm doing right now, and to deflect, right, and everything, and she's just like, nope, I'm holding on to this, and you're going to talk to this. And I just thought, like, what a great metaphor, for like the power of a good activist who's got, they've got the mic, they've got the story, the narrative. So I guess could you talk for a second about the power of stories when you're organizing these change campaigns?
Absolutely. And I wanted to also speak to within this question the comments about trauma as well, and about the healing journey. I called the book Song for a Hard Hit People. And for a couple reasons, we landed on that. It's a tribute to Hazel Dickens, and the subtitle, of course, Loretta Lynn. So Appalachian women musicians. But there, we know there's another memoir out there about someone who grew up in Kentucky who really used a version of a story about Kentucky that wasn't, was kind of, we're talking about hillbilly elegy, which was, a grifter using that to get politically ahead. And really the message being like that the people here are lazy. We don't want anything better for ourselves. We're ignorant. And we just need to pull ourselves up our bootstraps, and that anything that is happening is something that we have brought upon ourselves. And so I wanted to say that, an elegy is for the dead, but we're very much alive and we're still singing. And the part of like for a hard hit people to show that working class people, we were saying, doesn't matter what color or where you are in this state, but so many of us have been hit so hard by outside forces who have oppressed us. And so I wanted to really push back on that narrative that Kentuckians are welcoming all of these things upon ourselves and we're to blame, and to really say this region and the people here have been hit hard. And yet here we are, and we're still pushing back, and we're still organizing. And so the importance of stories and leaders like Mrs. Dorothy Thomas, I really wanted to show someone like Mrs. Thomas, who are really the leaders of grassroots movements. I think we have in our mind that it has to be, or, the kind of individual we might have in our mind here in America is kind of a white man with a lot of degrees and prestige and experience, who is the one we can trust to lead us. And really, the reality is, it's a lot of working class women and everyday people, people like Miss Dorothy Thomas, who have been
Amen.
exactly, who have been out here leading our communities without ever usually getting the mic, right, or the recognition. And I think good organizing does just that, right? It gives the community the microphone. It switches power, it turns it on its head and gives it to the people where it belongs, opposed to, an individual who believes that in a paternalistic way they know best, right? And hopefully we get our own people elected and they get to be champions for the people, but too often, right, that's not exactly what happens. And the power of story, that story of Miss Thomas has been one that when I first started organizing, they told to me, and then I started telling younger people, like, listen to this powerful story. These are the kinds of things that are possible when we organize. And now here I've put it into a book, and I hope thousands of people get to read about her, and through her learn how to do those things like she taught me. But I think all working class people, especially Southerners, and Nate, welcome to Kentucky. We're so glad you're here and that you're going to stay. We are storytellers, right? Working class people. We keep our history alive by telling it to younger generations or telling it over and over to each other, talk about our families. We also talk about what's happening in the world. And we have to keep our movement stories alive, like, the Battle of Blair Mountain in 1921 in West Virginia, the 10,000 strong multiracial redneck army. The United Mine Workers of America, who were fighting for their right to unionize in the largest multiracial labor uprising in this country's history. And they wore red bandanas around their necks. And so that's why they were referred to as rednecks. And so that story, for example, that happened in 1921. And yet here we are again, telling that story and looking to it for strength and inspiration. And that is a story that those in power have done their very best to stomp out, to quiet, to make sure nobody hears about it. And so I think also part of our job as organizers is to tell those stories, to make sure that they don't erase them. The fight for DEI and for history and for telling the truth is a fight for all of us. And so that's why I think storytelling is really powerful and important. And it's always been a part of movement.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We just have to take a second to digest that, marinate on that, right? Going back into trauma, I think just by personal observation and also looking at statistical data as well, most people that have had considerable amount of trauma in their childhood years become some of the best doctors, nurses, teachers, community organizers, and sometimes even politicians when they first start out and they really want to do the right thing, right? So, do you think that played into it? And then the other thing I want to say is when I was looking at chapter 5, lifting our heads higher, and I read it and I said, oh, girl was going on a diet. You said not eating. That's what I thought, right?
Oh, right. Right.
I said, okay, yeah, she on my train right now. I need to lose some weight. What she do? So it says not eating. I told the cafeteria attendant as I went through the lunch line, I, alongside at least 1/3 of my, guess what grade, Nate? 7th grade. She was already protesting in the 7th grade. Only thing I wanted to do was listen to rap music because it was brand new with Sugar Hill Gang. Remember Sugar Hill Gang?
Totally.
And you were up there not dieting like I probably was doing, but actually making a change so early. And do you think that trauma led you to being the person that you are? You're probably more empathic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so true. One of the things that I found and that I write about is understanding, finally getting into therapy and understanding my diagnosis, which was complex post-traumatic stress disorder from growing up and living in domestic violence. And to know the research and statistics that so many of us who grow up in areas that are hit so hard by poverty will have that kind of diagnosis because of the kind of systemic traumas, harms, that are enacted and that play out in our daily lives. So whether that might be people being hungry, people not knowing where they're going to sleep that night, struggles with addiction and mental health, and once those things are generational, they have a higher chance of repeating. And so I think without realizing that, maybe I was a scared little kid, and I think that made me more open hearted to other people who might be scared, who might be struggling, to kind of see that so many of us are suffering, and that we're lonely, and that we deserved a better life than many of us got. And so I do think that kind of made me a more open hearted person. It also made me an angry person, but like in a righteous anger kind of way, where I was like, none of this, I didn't always have the political analysis, but I just felt like in that instance, right, in sixth or seventh grade in the cafeteria, I just was like, why would we not be able to have water? And this doesn't make sense, right? And it feels like there's people in charge who are making decisions that benefit them, but it doesn't benefit the rest of us. And somehow, I think a lot of us who grew up in those conditions, who are working class, we intuitively know these things very instinctually, whether we could articulate it when we were that young or not. And so I think for me, it's certainly given me the drive to do this kind of work, because I would really love a future where children get to be safe, and have a joyful childhood, and they have everything that they need, and that people like my parents didn't have to work so hard all the time and didn't have to struggle with addiction, that we didn't lose our housing when we did, those sorts of things. And so that keeps me motivated, I believe.
Mm.
I can most definitely understand that. You have another question, Mr. Nate? Nate Dog.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and just some praise that one of the things you do so wonderfully is give us a taste of what life was like for you growing up, and even as an adult. There's just so much detail, so much. Just really fleshing out things that otherwise that a lesser writer, I'll say, would probably not be able to bring the reader along into your experience the way that you did. And I just think that when the people listening and watching this right now, when they go out and buy Song for a Hard Hit People, they too will be impressed and will lose themselves, I think, very often in your stories and descriptions. One thing I wanted to talk about. So you one of the main things that you're really all about, seemingly, is sort of the multicultural activism, solidarity, right? How a lot of like the white folks, I'll say, are have traditionally been set against people of color, and sort of by design. It's not an accident. It's part of a systemic thing, and as part of that, as part of coming together, I do have a question here. The question is about how, once you get people to actually see that they're on the same side, and that their interests are the same, and that indeed they're fighting against, in the not literal sense, maybe, well, sometimes literal sense, systemic issues. How can that get them to sort of overcome the economic suffering that so many of them have been experiencing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, a tale as old as time, that those in power will use racism as a tool to further their agendas. And so we have seen this work very, very well all throughout history. One of the most obvious ways here in our region, let's look at labor unions, right? So you'll have a boss who doesn't want the union. So he'll try to separate the workers from each other and to divide them and to get them to fight with each other. And so a traditional way of doing that is to tell the white workers that the black workers or the immigrant workers are getting something that they don't deserve, right? And to make them an offer, to make the white workers an offer of, if you don't sign a union card, we'll make you a manager, right? We'll move you up. We'll give you a raise. We'll give you all these things. And so we have seen that kind of strategic racism play out all through history in all kinds of different ways, and it's happening today. And what that looks like, I wanted to show and document my childhood in the fact that I grew up in a majority, if not all white, really small rural community in Eastern Kentucky, and to show the economic hardships that we went through, because that kind of suffering is what a lot of white people are experiencing in this country, a lot of working class white people. And they're struggling and they're suffering and they're angry and they're worried about putting food on the table and keeping housing and going to the doctor. And so I believe that nationally, like the Democratic Party has largely abandoned a place like Kentucky, which used to be a Democratic stronghold. It was theirs to lose, and they did. And then in the lack of progressive organizing in rural places and small towns, and the way that the right and the ruling class has busted up unions, it's left a vacuum. And so what has filled that vacuum have been the far right, who have come in and said, hey, white people, you're suffering. I hear you. You're hungry. You're scared. You're angry. That's not right. It shouldn't be happening to you. And the reason it is because of immigrants. You should, it's all these immigrants are coming in. They're taking your jobs. They're taking all these things, right? Like, don't look up at the billionaires, but just keep fighting other people, right?
Yeah.
And so that is highly effective. And so now what we have to do is, for people like me and showing up for racial justice, or what I wanted to do in 2020 when I wrote the essay Rednecks for Black Lives, which was calling in working class white, rural people, Appalachian people to be in solidarity in the streets against police murders of Black people. And beyond that issue, generally be in true solidarity, is to organize our own people away from white supremacy towards multiracial working class solidarity and campaigns where we all get our needs met, right? And that we reject the lies of racism and division that are stoked in our communities.
Mm.
I want to piggyback on that a little bit. I'm a Black woman.
Yep.
And when you talk to most Black people in the city and things like that, I'm talking about here in Kentucky. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We're not going to go to Appalachia really.
Yep.
By ourselves.
Right.
I would be scared to death. There is that stereotypical redneck racism.
Yep.
You might get lynched there. All these type of things. When my son was going to West Virginia University, he dated a girl. She was white. He dated a girl before he turned gay. And she lived in the Appalachians.
Yeah.
And her aunt was okay with her talking to my son, but her dad wasn't. And he was like, I don't want to stereotype anybody, but he just looked like, okay?
Yeah.
And he ended up being like, what he looked like, okay? He's probably like a Trump supporter right now. Yeah. And so there was a holler, and I never even knew what a holler was back then.
Yeah.
I only heard it in a Loretta Lynn song, right? But it was one called NIG holler.
Yeah.
And these are the things that people have to put up with, and you have fear of going anywhere in your state that shouldn't be right. But there's a lot of Black folks in those mountains. There's a lot of Black folks that built those railroads and different things of that nature. And everybody was getting along. Most people were getting along building the railroads and all
Mhm.
the things that they did, coal mining, all
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
So a girl that comes from this little bitty small town
Yeah.
in stereotypical racial land
Yeah.
is now speaking against racism.
Mhm.
We know that we both had trauma, and a lot of people do, because doctors have said now it can travel back
Yeah.
14 generations. So you were also living with the trauma of your dad, your mom, all
Yeah.
these type of things. And we have to be the type of people, we have to watch ourselves so we won't be alcoholics and on and on. And
Yeah.
am I right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm right.
Yeah.
But I mean, what triggered you to be like, let me help these black folks? That's so unusual. That's what makes you, the top in the game, because you're not going to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I think I was, as we talked about, being an empathetic person, being a reader, being very curious about other people. So I think generally, I think we are all, especially as white people, we are all fed messages of white supremacy and pop culture. And it's kind of in the air that we breathe, right? Just like patriarchy and capitalism and all the things. So, but I think in my heart, I tried as best I could, as consciously as I could, to push away and against things that dehumanized other people, no matter who they were. But I think, and I think being an organizer, I was kind of this somewhat clueless white girl, white Southerner who got, I moved to Florida to train, and I got to working with a lot of like Black churches in the South, and a lot of people like Mrs. Thomas, who I write about, who really loved on me and took me in and had a lot of grace and patience with me. And so we became, so close, and they were looking after me. They were like, "You're so far from home. How are you? How's your family?" And so I think through authentic relationships with people, that got me out of my all white community and really put me in a struggle of fighting for, things to make our community better in a multiracial group, of course, changed me. But I really went through later, that I write in the book, about a very politicizing training I went through, a study that really deep dived into racism and the way that racism has been used throughout history, right? To do exactly what you were saying, that these opportunities that have gone on, throughout time, for the working class to come together, white, Black, and brown. Um, and we have in militant, like large numbers, is so threatening that every time they have used strategic racism as a tool, and it's often worked. But as I was doing this study, I saw that there were times where white people didn't take the bait, actually, and they chose solidarity. And that's from the work of good organizing and us seeing ourselves as a group that cannot be divided. And I was like, I want to do that, because as long as white people keep getting pulled away from Black people and immigrants, as long as we keep blaming, taking the bait of our oppressors and blaming each other, we're not going to have a damn thing. And so I'm not like doing it as like, I want to be like, I do want to be a good person, of course, but it's not about like being good or being like the good white lady, or perfect or anything like that. But it's because I want us all to have health care. I want us to all live in safety, and to have food, and to have strong public schools, and have elected officials who give a damn about us. And we're not going to have any of that as long as white people choose racism.
Well, Nate, you have anything else to say? I've got one more question for Miss Beth Howard tonight.
Well,
One of the best guests ever. One of the best guests ever.
we're going into overtime, but when you've got someone like Beth Howard with you, it's hard to
She's
keep
a
it.
celebrity, man. She's a celebrity. She's
So
like,
she is.
she's wrote a hardcover book. That's all I gotta say. And it wasn't done by designer AI. Okay.
So there was a section toward the end where you speak really movingly about Charles Booker.
Yes.
and sort of bursting onto the public scene in 2020. And wouldn't you know it, he's now our Democratic candidate for Senate. Uh, do, do you feel comfortable just saying a word or two about him and what he means to you?
Absolutely. I mean, I was hooting and hollering last night. I told everybody today, I was like, Charles Booker defeated Amy McGrath last night. And also one of our grassroots members, I write about co-founding the group Kentucky People's Union. In my book. They're in Ashland, and so one of our members won her city council primary in Ashland, a working class Eastern Kentucky woman running on a housing platform. And then I saw my friend Shamika is also going to be in the general election for Louisville mayor, Shamika Parrish Wright. And so I was just like, nobody today, I was like,
Shamika.
Yeah, Shamika Parrish, right on.
Working class candidates these are the kinds of people that are exciting to us. They are people who have lived experience of struggle and really love our state and love our people, and that is authentic and real to us. And I was organizing in Eastern Kentucky, and my family is all there. I live in Lexington during Booker's first run, and that was electric. There were white people all over rural Kentucky who heard themselves in his message. And I will still talk to people about, what do you see as the political landscape? What, kind of leaders do you want to elect? And they'll always go back and say, I remember Charles Booker talking about having to ration his insulin, and we have to do that too.
Yes.
It's those messages about how we're alike that can overcome the divisive rhetoric about how we're different and how we should be pitted against each other. And I just think people want candidates who are going to stand up for the people instead of money, and who care about us and who genuinely love us and want better for our state, and someone who feels like they're one of us because they are. Like, he understands what it's like to not know if you're going to make rent, right? To worry about your kids and the kind of education they're going to get, or if they're going to be safe at school that day. And so candidates like Charles Booker, Shamika Parrish Wright, and my friend Heather Hayes in Ashland, who will be running in city commission, we need leaders like them. And I'm so excited.
So my question to you, Beth, real quick, is with the political climate it is today, and being the supreme type of, community organizer that you are, very much a professional. It seems like it's making things a lot harder for the organizer. It's making it a lot harder for everybody, but to organize and to really get the people pumped up. And I just feel kind of bad. I said it at the beginning of the show. Maybe you didn't hear it, but I talked about, the turnout. And I know that primarily during the primary, you're not going to have as many people come out. Everybody wants to come out with the presidential, but they don't understand how important the lawmakers are, because what do? They make the laws. But I'm just kind of, I don't know. I just thought that there would be more with everything that's going on. And my daughter's been fighting in the war over in Saudi and all this I just thought it'd be more people that would be against Trump, that would be against bootlicking Andy Barr, that would be against Gallerin, or whatever his name is. He still has a hold on this state. What do organizers do? What do all of us do?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great question, and everybody, I won't say everybody, a lot of people I talk to are right now feeling very much like I'm assuming the three of us do, which is we often find ourselves scared, disappointed, really looking for hope, and something to feel excited about, and really asking these same questions of what's going to move people, right? And how are we going to get out of this? And I really think, I do most of my experience has been in kind of issue-based organizing, right? Organizing around a material need like housing or something, which I think really is a great, like we were saying, a great way to bring people together, because then we start to see how much we have in common. And I think also I've seen the power of a really good grassroots campaign like Charles Booker, like Shamika Parrish, right? Like my friend Heather and Ashland, Heather Hayes for city council. And I think we have this opportunity right now to get, build this momentum behind these three candidates. And I'm sure there's more across the state who I don't know yet. And really like put out a people's platform of this is what we want for our state, right? And to really like get excitement and buzz going about that, because these are leaders who can really speak to our experience and the kind of vision for a future that we really need, and who are authentic people who come from us and our communities. And so I am actually really, at this point, really excited for Kentucky that these are the electoral campaigns that we get to run this year. And I'm thinking also about, the importance of the Democratic Party taking seriously the things that they can do to win voters here in the state and to motivate them to show up. And that's to have candidates like Charles Booker, like Shamika Parrish, right, like Heather Hayes, who are talking about issues that impact working people that are not going to do business as usual. And so, I even think about the people who voted for Thomas Massey. He didn't win, but there were a lot of people that voted for him who did not, want the Trump-backed candidate. And so I'm like, well, here's a pool of people. Someone shared the numbers with me. It was a lot of younger Republicans who voted for Massey. Go organize them, right? Like, let's bring them to our side. They don't want Trump. They didn't want the Trump candidate. So maybe that's an opportunity, and I think we all have to get really strategic and serious about bringing in people who we might not think are with us, but who are just kind of waiting on us to invite them into something. So,
well, I will say this. This has been like one of the greatest shows because I call Nate affectionately Nate Dog. He's got it going on and put up the book. Yes.
Thank you.
Song for Hard-Hit People, a memoir of anti-racist solidarity from a coal miner's daughter. Where can we get the book?
You can get the book anywhere you buy books. So, I always say shop local if you can. So I was just at Carmichael's Books in Louisville, Joseph Beth here in Lexington. My beloved hometown bookstore is Coffee Tree Books in Moorhead, Kentucky. There's the Red Spotted Newton, Hazard, Roebling Books in Northern Kentucky. I could go on. There's so many wonderful local bookstores.
Amazon?
Yeah, I was going to say Bookshop's another great option, and it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you buy books, you should be able to get it.
Who's the publisher?
Haymarket Books is the publisher.
Can I get it on Audible? You
can also get the audiobook, and I'm the narrator. So
I was going to ask you that. You took the words right out of you owe me a soda pop. Okay, you took the words out of my mouth. I was getting ready to say that. But I will say, beggars can't be choosy. But this beggar over here that got the book from your publisher, I love it. But, it won't mean as much to me if it's not autographed.
Oh,
right. We're gonna seek you out, Beth.
Yeah, we're gonna run you down, girl. Get that autograph.
Sharpie in hand.
I would
go in places.
We'll see each other in person, and I would love to.
Yes, we will.
For anyone out there listening, please request it for your public library. And they should be able to get the audiobook and the regular book at the public library. So,
well, I spend my money on that for Kindle, books, and audio. So I like to have it on all platforms.
Yeah, me too.
So thank you, Beth. You are amazing. Thank you. Keep the positivity up. Keep doing what you're doing. You are absolutely amazing. And I'm older. I'm way older than you, but I look so young. And it's Estee Lauder Cosmetics. But anyway, this is one of my favorite books right now. And my daughter, thank God, is going to be coming home from the war. to visit and go to her class reunion. Her 20th class reunion at Sacred Heart Academy. Can you believe it?
Wow.
And I want her to read this book. So I'm going to give her this book, Beth.
Yes.
So I'm going to need an autographed copy. I just want to just put that out there into the universe. Just let you know. But look, we love you. We're going to have you back on here. I know that we are. So sorry that Erin couldn't be on here tonight. But you know what? I'm kind of glad, Nate, because we have more time with her.
We're Mrs. Thomas with the mic.
Yeah. Thank you, Beth. Thank you so much. If there's anything that we can do to help you in your endeavors, please let us know. We will make ourselves available. Okay.
All right. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoops, wrong one.
You know,
there we go. There we go.
People. Song for hard-hit people. Everybody, listen. Song for hard-hit people. Get this book. I'm telling you, I couldn't put it down, and it helped me. It really helped me personally. Oh, yeah. Nate, you want to take us away tonight? It's been a great show with Ms. Beth
It's been
Howard.
such a pleasure, Kimberly.
Yes.
Hanging out with you.
I hope Aaron will be okay with the show tonight.
Yeah, he's going to be like, you know what? I should just let these two guys do it all the time. I'm gonna retire.
Oh no, that's not gonna happen. And then we went a little bit over, but I think Aaron will be okay because he gave us 51 million stories to do tonight. So
yeah, all right.
It was so important.
So important. All right, so let's bring it on home here. So Progress Kentucky, that's us. We are a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and Common Ground Kentucky Action. And well, guess what else? We are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. We will be back next week. We're joined by Tennessee State Representative and longtime Indivisible organizer and a friend of Progress Kentucky, Afton Bain, I think. We can't wait to hear her first-hand account of how the Tennessee legislature raced to erase Black political power. That's like a horror story. But you know what? She's a good witness to that. They did that immediately after the horrendous SCOTUS decision, and so we're going to hear about what she did and what she thinks, what Afton thinks we need to do to fight back. Production of this episode number 259, can you believe it, was I guess by me, and Parker also produced the graphics. So hats off to you, Parker.
Nate Dogg and Parker.
Nate Orshan, that's me, wrote and performed our theme song. You can find more information and music at my website, natosongs.com. If you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcasts and our show notes are available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you do listen to the pod, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening right now. Thanks for joining Kernels of Truth. And what do we say, Kimberly?
I went to a garden party. What?
Don't fret, my pet.
Don't fret, my pet.
Okay, we'll see you guys. We're going off to a garden party right now. We'll see you in a week. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
You crazy, Nate.
Un poco loco.